All right, what's up? It's officially been a year since I moved to Seattle, and I want to talk about everything I wish I knew before I moved here. First, the neighborhoods. Today, I rank the neighborhoods. If you want to live in Seattle, these are the different neighborhoods you'll be considering. There are others, but in my head, they are not in Seattle. Green Lake technically might be part of Seattle, but to me, without a car, not a part of Seattle. I never go there. Here's the ones I do go to and the neighborhoods you might want to consider. Belltown/downtown for people who want to live in big apartment buildings, for people who want to live close to their tech jobs, for people who don't have a car, for people who want amenities in their apartments like a gym or concierge or a package room that's like locked. So I've been living in downtown for the last year, and I feel like it's a good place to live for like a year or maybe two. So far, I have been happy with my apartment building. The only thing I'm not happy with is the rent price. Oh my God. It is astronomical. And especially with these big buildings, they be raising the rent as high as they can every year. The other thing that kind of sucks about downtown is that there's nothing to do here. All of downtown is created just for corporate workers. So any of the restaurants are either pretty much only open for lunch and close at like 4 or 5 p.m. Or if they are open late, they are a super expensive and super fancy restaurant made specifically for like team dinners. Downtown can also be a little more tricky with the crime scene. There's specifically one McDonald's on 3rd Avenue, which you should not go to because it has a nickname of the murder McDonald's. But outside of like that 3rd Avenue, maybe 2nd and 4th Avenue area, you should be good. I have not dealt with any crime really. I feel safe where I live. Downtown, Belltown, C tier. Next. Pioneer Square is the historic area of Seattle. This is like where the city first started. And that's about all there is to it. It has some nice, cute brick buildings. There's some good touristy things to do there. They have little coffee shops and boba shops and bookstore, but there's nothing really to do there. There's no grocery stores. It seems kind of like a food desert to me, except for your proximity to International District. I will say this area also can be pretty sketchy, especially at night. I was there recently at night and did not feel safe. There has been quite a few crimes happening, violent crimes happening in the Pioneer Square International District area lately, and not a single person I know lives there. I don't think many people live there at all. I would probably avoid living in that area. Pioneer Square gets a D tier. Next, First Hill. First Hill is where all of the hospitals are, all of the medical stuff is. It's pretty built up. There are some good housing options near the Whole Foods in First Hill. Those options are also very close to Cap Hill, which has a lot of amenities. But I have heard from some folks to be careful renting there because depending on how close you are to the hospital, you will be hearing ambulances all day and all night. I think if you're not close to Cap Hill, but in First Hill, probably don't live there. First Hill gets C tier. Capitol Hill is like the gay area. Gay, coffee, clubs, bookstores, shops. It can be really fun. Cap Hill is great. There's a lot of good restaurants there, like local places. A lot of younger people live there. Definitely can be the place to be for some people. However, Cap Hill is also kind of sketchy. That being said, Cap Hill can be a really good place to live. It is super social. There's so much to do there. I would recommend, if you're interested in Cap Hill, to look like a couple blocks away from the main road. That way, you'll get much more of a neighborly feel and it'll feel a lot quieter and a lot more safe, while at the same time having a lot of access to Cap Hill amenities. Cap Hill goes to B tier. South Lake Union, otherwise known as SLU, is another neighborhood that is boring. There's no reason to live there. There's not much to do there from what I can tell. There's a couple brunch places. There's a VR gaming place, which is kind of cool. A museum or two. You're right by Lake Union, which can be nice. However, it is also very techy. Pretty much everyone who lives there works in tech, and often their office is like 3 steps away from their house because all the offices are also there in tech. But mostly, I just feel like it's kind of boring. It can be a nice, quiet neighborhood if it fits you. There's a lot of new buildings in SLU. It's not very historic or old. It was recently built up. But at the same time, if you need to do anything aside from maybe grocery shopping, you're gonna have to go elsewhere to another neighborhood to get those things. South Lake Union, C tier. Okay, now let's talk about Queen Anne. There's Lower Queen Anne and there's Upper Queen Anne. Lower Queen Anne strikes me as fun. I have not been there too frequently, but I have ventured a few times. And every time I go there, I have a really enjoyable time. It feels like a good mixture of something similar to Cap Hill, but not quite. There's a lot of cool looking restaurants there, some cool shops as well. There's also a lot of parks because because you're right by Climate Pledge Arena and by the Space Needle, so there's a lot of greenery nearby that you can just like walk through and kind of people watch, which is cool. The only thing I could foresee being an issue living there would be the crowds and the noise level on those event days. But outside of that, it strikes me as a really good place to live. Lower Queen Anne, as much as I wish I knew more about you, from the little I know, A tier. Upper Queen Anne, very different. Upper Queen Anne is a neighborhood. Upper Queen Anne is where you go after you've settled into Seattle for a few years, and maybe now you have a car and you already have your friends, and maybe your friends moved to Green Lake or to West Seattle, and you are just going up top of the hill. Upper Queen Anne is on a hill, so you go up the hill to your apartment building or your house. That's it. It's quiet. It's a neighborhood. You have your kid there. They grew up there. There's like one street of stores and groceries and things like that on like the top of the hill at Upper Queen Anne. And that area is very nice. I love going there for little day trips. But Upper Queen Anne is really out of the way. There's not very good transit options there. You pretty much have to have a car to live there. For that reason, B tier. U District is right by University of Washington, or UW. It is a college town, so it comes with all of the college town things. There's lots to do in U District, whether it's shopping or video games or thrifting or music, things like that. There's a lot to do there. Clubbing, etc. However, if you're above the age of like 25, you're gonna feel old as fuck in U District because it's a college town. In terms of safety, I feel that I do kind of have to watch out a little bit more in U District. Not too bad, but it's not giving neighborhood. It's giving like college town. For those reasons, and also for the fact that I don't want to relive college, and so I don't go there very often. B tier. Fremont. Fremont. I love Fremont. Fremont is my favorite neighborhood in Seattle. I try to go there whenever I can. However, I wouldn't recommend when moving to Seattle, I would not recommend that you move there. It's not connected to the Seattle link, so there's less transit options to kind of get in and out. If you have a car, you're probably fine. Fremont has a nice little street, and it has books and restaurants and coffee and like music and lots of things to do. There's a nice little hustle and bustle to Fremont that I like, similar to Cap Hill or to U District, but it feels nicer there. I don't know, there's something about it. A couple blocks away from Fremont, you get to houses. Houses are so cute. I want to live in one of those houses so bad, but alas, they are expensive. Fremont is my favorite neighborhood in Seattle. If you have a chance to visit, go visit. It's a good like half day kind of thing. It's where the Seattle Troll is as well. Fremont, I love you. S tier. Ballard is basically Fremont, but instead of coffee, you get beer, and it's a little further away. I'm not really into beer. I don't like go out to the pubs or the breweries, so B tier. But if you really like beer, Ballard is the place to go to try all different types of beers. Next, Seattle housing. I have a couple points on Seattle housing. First thing you should know, it gets really expensive during the summer to move here in Seattle. So if you have some flexibility, I would recommend moving to Seattle in the wintertime, in the fall time, once the summer wave finishes, and you can definitely get a better deal on rent. If you're having to move here during the summer, maybe sign like a 6-month lease. That way you can renew in December and lock in like a cheaper rate, or move somewhere else and get a lot of the bonuses that come around December time. I moved here last December, and that was a really good decision. I would definitely say to prioritize an option that has AC or can have AC. There's still a lot of places in Seattle that do not have AC, but I feel that the summers are too hot now. I lived in Seattle, of course, for this past summer. I was also in Seattle for summer 2022, and both of them were hot. Hotter than expected. I think climate change is doing its work here. This past summer, I was happy to have AC. If your unit does not have like built-in AC, just try and get somewhere where you know you can put in a portable air conditioning or something, and try and buy it maybe during the winter because it will come in handy. Okay, aside from like location, that's really all I have to say about housing. However, I have more to say about Seattle weather. Like I said before, the best time to move to Seattle is in the winter time. Now, aside from the rent, I think it's the same with the weather. The best time to move here is during the winter time. And here's why. The weather is so shit here during the wintertime that when you move here and you haven't experienced a Seattle summer yet, you don't quite know what you're missing out on. You just think, oh, this is Seattle weather, I'm adjusting, it's fine. That's what I thought last year. And then the summer came and it was so great and the city came so alive. And then September comes around and you start to think, oh my fucking God. Like, the winter is coming again, but now I know what to expect, and I'm not happy it's here. That being said, you move here during the winter time, you just kind of find yourself in this rainy environment and you're like, okay, that's Seattle. I was expecting rain. You don't know what you're missing out on and it doesn't hurt as bad. Winter Seattle is rainy, but not as rainy as you'd think it would be. It's mostly misting all the time, at least once a day. Surprisingly, shockingly, it's not misting right now. It's pretty nice out right now for winter. Seattle winters are cold, primarily through wind, not quite cold enough to cause it to snow very often, maybe once a year. Maybe. We didn't get snow last year, but cold enough to where you're feeling it in your face. And when the rain is there, you can't use an umbrella because it's too windy. Seattle winter is also dark. The sun sets in Seattle at 4 p.m. during the winter. Now it sets at 4 p.m., but by 3 p.m., it's already twilight. Also, in the dead of winter, the sun doesn't rise till like 8 a.m., and it's really tragic. However, if you are the right type of person and you know all of this and this doesn't really scare you, you might fit in Seattle. If you're like me in the winter, it doesn't really bother you. It's kind of nice, actually. It's dark outside and you're like, holy shit, it's dark. I gotta go to bed. And then you're like, oh wait, it's 3:30 p.m. I have so much time before I need to go to bed. And the summers here really are incredible. Because Seattle is so far north, the sun sets super early during the winter. During the summer, however, because we're so far north, it is the opposite. The sun sets so late. The sun rises so early. I'm talking 9:30, 10 p.m. sunset, 5:30 a.m. sunrise. It's incredible. Being in Seattle versus being in Virginia, we get an hour more of daylight per day in Seattle during the summer than I would in Virginia. Seattle summers, the city really comes alive. It be popping. People are out in the parks, laying on the grass, singing hallelujah because the sun is out. The sun is out like every day. It almost never rains. It does get a little hot at times, but there are a few months of perfect weather. I would say living in Seattle, maybe don't take a vacation during the summer because you're just gonna miss out. Lastly, I want to talk about the people here. It's been a year. I've had to deal with Seattle folks for a whole year now. And how are they? Speaking to winter versus summer, nothing happens in the winter here. There is nothing going on. There are no events. All the people and all their friends stay in their own little groups. No one's meeting anyone. So if you do move here during the winter, just be prepared that it might take a little bit longer to meet people. There's not a lot of social stuff going on. But that's okay. Book some indoor activities, join Bumble BFF. You'll figure it out. It'll be fine. People here tend to keep to themselves. When I lived in California, people love small talk. They love to give you a little compliment as you're walking down the street. Oh, I love your shirt. Oh, I love that book. And then you talk about the book, etc. Here in Seattle, no. I have never talked to someone else who lives in Seattle on the street. I talk to people so little out and about. Whenever someone does talk to me, I have to come back. Think, whoa, you're talking to me. And then usually it's a tourist. I understand that this can sound isolating, but I haven't personally found it to be. In every place you go, there's going to be different socially accepted norms. In Seattle, talking to people randomly, small talk, people you don't know, is not one of them. However, there are other ways. You can join a little club, join Bumble BFF, talk with your coworkers. If you are pursuing the correct avenues of meeting new people, Seattleites are very open to meeting people, super friendly. You just have to do it in the right way and not expect something out of Seattle that's not going to give you. Seattle kind of has a reputation online. It's called the Seattle Freeze, where people don't want to talk to you. They don't really care to know you until you've been here for a little while. And it sounds like really scary. I have not felt that at all living here in the past year. Like I said, you just have to meet people via the correct ways and not meet people via small talk. So I've been here a year and reflecting on just how much my life has changed in the last year here. And I have to say, I am so happy I moved to Seattle. Seattle is a great place to move to straight out of college. It is one of those cities that's a bit smaller, but there's still so much to do, especially during the summer. Seattle has such a unique culture that I have not experienced before. I have not felt similar in Seattle when I lived in Virginia or when I lived in California. Growing up, I was so excited to move to Seattle and it did not disappoint. I love Seattle. I love living here. I hope to be here for a while longer. So it's been a year and I definitely do not regret it. Very happy to be here. Okay, that is it. Let's check in another year. Let's see how it goes. Have a good rest of your life. I'll see you in the future, I hope. Goodbye.